Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Compromised. Today, I'm very excited to have with me one of my dearest friends and very, very talented artist, Jeremie Draper. Hi.
Hi, thanks for having
Of
me.
course, so happy to have you. You just have such a phenomenal story, and I'm so excited to tell it. Let's dive in. Um, how did you start with glass blowing in the first place?
Sure, yeah.
What's your journey?
A lot of people ask me that because it's such a foreign material. So I went to Southern Illinois in Carbondale, and I was a biology major. And I had to walk past the glass studio in order to get to my other classes. And I was completely captivated by what I was seeing in there. And at that time, I was taking a lot of classes that had labs, and I just needed a little bit of a break from that. So I would go over to the glass studio and I'd watch the students blow glass, and I found myself just sitting there for hours at a time. And finally, one of the grad students said, "Let's let this girl like spool up some glass and see what it's all about." And after that experience, I was hooked. I figured, how can I change my major and still convince my parents that I was going to do something meaningful? And so I was able to like push a little bit of the chemistry side because there's a lot
Sure.
of chemistry in glass. Um, but I just knew that I needed to be able to touch this material. It's so fascinating, and it's such a utilitarian material that we use every single day, whether
Right.
we realize it or not. And there's so many great aspects about glass that relay over into the artistic realm as well.
I was gonna say it's interesting that you were in biology, right? Biology
Yeah.
to move into glass blowing because I've had the pleasure of being very involved with your business now, and very very honored. So I kind of see it now. I'm seeing what's sort of happening when you're doing this, and it does have such an element of that
Yeah.
in it,
Yeah.
and how you create things.
Yeah.
Can you walk me through
Yeah.
like a kind of a quick sort of process when you're making something, what that like how that
Yeah, so
kind of
from
works?
the chemistry standpoint, when you're working with a piece of glass, whether you're sculpting it or blowing the piece, it actually, when it's finished, it has to cool down into an oven, which is called an annealer,
Okay.
and it goes from 1,000 degrees down to room temperature over 24 hours. So
Wow.
all the molecules need to align together, and it takes all the stress out of the glass.
Huh.
So that, from a chemistry standpoint, that is imperative that that part of the process happens. Now, how you start with the material, that depends on what type of glass that you're working with. And so I work with a soda lime glass,
Okay.
where I have a furnace that holds a vat of 150 pounds of hot molten glass
Wow.
that sits at 2,150 degrees. So it's hot all the time, 24/7, unless we're working on the equipment.
Sure.
And now in the summers, we shut down working and to kind of turn our hats into other avenues of the business. But for the most part, when we're starting to work with a piece, we have either a hollow iron or a solid iron that will spool up. Just imagining getting a spoon and twirling into some honey and trying to
Oh.
keep that honey on that spoon. That's how hot that glass is.
Wow.
And then we have various tools that allow us to shape and cool the glass. A lot of times you'll see me go over to that steel table
Yeah.
where I'm shaping the glass. That's where I collect my color. I form it to kind of a shape of an egg, and then with a burst of air, I will push my air through the hollow iron, going to the most vulnerable spot of the glass where it's that hot liquid, 2,000 degrees, and that is the birth of a new piece. And so there's a little tiny bubble in there. It's about as big as a cotton ball or an avocado pit.
And then it just grows.
And then it grows and with the breath of our air. So a small amount of glass is enough for like an ornament or a shot glass. But once you put that bubble in there and you let it cool down to about 900, then you can go back into the furnace, spool up another layer, and that's how you make something bigger.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And there's so many different ways to manipulate the glass.
Yes.
Like, how do you decide? What's that process look like for when you decide that you're going to make something new?
So that's a great question because it comes with a lot of practice and just rendering through the idea. And if you sketch anything, and this is like true for all artists, like when you have a sketch that lends to more ideas and you kind of expand upon that. But specifically in the glass world, you can't literally touch the glass. So we have all these tools that allow us to manipulate it, however,
Sure.
whether we're like putting texture on it or we want it to be smooth or we want to put a design into it. So hopefully we can like incorporate maybe some quick videos or so into the podcast here so people can see
Sure.
exactly what we're doing, because sometimes it's hard to describe exactly
For
the
sure.
process of it. So
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I started working with you that I didn't understand the process and it took me some time, but just fascinating.
yeah,
Absolutely
Yeah.
fascinating.
yeah.
And what's amazing about what you do is that you offer this opportunity to the community to come and learn how to do it.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little
Yeah.
bit about that and what sort of
Yes.
got you into offering that?
Absolutely. So in 2013, I had an opportunity to go out to the Corning Museum of Glass and work on a project with them for 3 weeks where we were in an IMAX theater when there was a glass studio, and we would entertain by the bus loads people from mostly New York City, but all over the state. There was 13 presentations a day.
Whoa.
And so I would switch back from doing the demonstration, or I would be narrating, and we would go back and forth. And there was a team of about 4 or 5 of us. And just seeing the hundreds of people that would come through on a daily basis inspired me to say, you know what, I can do this. At that time, I was still at Echo Valley Meats.
Okay.
And that gave me the perfect opportunity to come back to Dave and ask him, or politely let him know that I wanted to go ahead and venture off on my own. And at that time, he was fully immersed in his e-commerce business with Shark Tank. So it was a good segue to go from a private little glass studio to a public facility. And I knew that I didn't have the budget that Corning New York had, but I thought, you know what? I'm a good saver. I can start small. I can start offering demonstrations for Girl Scouts, for field trips, for
Oh.
continuing education. Like Ollie will come in. And after trying that for about a year, I saw that people were really interested in the glass. And a lot of people in Central Illinois had never seen glass making before. So I started off with the demonstrations. And then, we're such tactile humans of nature that I thought, you know what, if I can design a very safe environment for people to do a hands-on, then this is going to bring them more joy than just buying a piece of art or even watching it. And once I started offering those classes, we were just filling up so fast. And it was only myself and one other glassblower at the time. So I thought, okay, this is a good problem to have. So that's when I really started to research and see what other studios were offering classes and how can I compete with any competition, give people a closer view of glass and more hands-on in a safer fashion. So I pursued those components for some time and put together this kind of idea that allowed people to come in the studio, get more hands-on than they would anywhere else. And so today I still feel that way, that my studio in America is the most that you would ever get hands-on
Wow.
for the project that you're making. And, you know, we are super safe. We're like a well-oiled machine.
Yes, you are.
We have the floor color coordinated, so you can, you know, guide your student to different areas of the floor, and we give them safety and make sure that they're super safe and comfortable, and they have a wonderful time.
I mean, that's incredible that you offer something like that in a town like Peoria.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's so many great things going on here that people just aren't aware of.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, I'll never forget how we got so close when you, I found out that you do memorials. And I think a lot of people don't know about this, but it was the most beautiful thing could have ever imagined when my father passed.
Yeah.
You know, that you can take the ashes.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what that meant.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
And, you know, now working with you, I do understand that. But can you tell me a little about that too?
I had lost my father shortly after you had lost your father, and I felt a deep connection to you right when I met you. And when you came to me and asked me to make something for you, knowing his Army background, I thought, let's make something that he would be really proud of. So, you know, all of these memorials that I make are very personal, and it was never something that I thought that I would offer. I had a family come to me in 2016 and ask if I would make something with their pet's cremains. And I thought, oh, okay, I don't really do that. But I remember from living in Oregon, there were a lot of glassmakers that were using Mount St. Helens ashes when she erupted.
Wow.
Gosh, I don't even remember what that was. It was like in 81 or something, a long time ago. And I thought, okay, well, we're all ash, and we're all carbon, and the finished product is our ashes.
Yeah.
And so I experimented, I tried that, and I failed a couple times, and I thought, well, this is really fascinating because the ashes don't really melt into the glass, and they're
Yeah.
not super compatible, but I will actually go through and I'll sift the ashes and get the finest material, and when it touches the glass, no matter what shade of gray they come to me, they turn stark white, and they make this like beautiful kind of celestial galactic, you know, effect, and they trap little air bubbles in the glass. And so I always sandwich, you know, the clear glass on top of the ashes, so they are protected and they're encased. And it has been such an awesome offering, feeling that I can comfort somebody in the time of need with something that is so personal and meaningful for them. So today we have over 20 different styles of memorials, whether it's something solid from like a round paperweight to a bird to a hanging sun catcher, to something that is actually blown into, just like the vessel I made for you. I made you a beautiful camouflage vase that had Dad's ashes all kind of wispied and swirled in there. And then he wore a lime green yellow shirt, right? And we put that color on for the lip
Yes.
wrap. So really trying to personalize these for people is a wonderful gift as well. And
Yes.
through hearing people's stories, and people come to me, strangers, and they tell me these very intimate stories, and I feel, wow, how vulnerable they are, and like how fortunate and lucky I am, and really what an honor to be able to create something for them that's so very meaningful.
I mean, honestly, Jeremy, it was like the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And then you make these little like worry stones.
Yes.
That you make from what again? How do you
Oh,
make those?
the impression of the worry stone comes from a baby spoon of mine.
Love that. Love that. And see even more meaning behind it.
Yeah.
Right? I
Yeah.
think you're a great storyteller. And the process that I went through with you was so beyond meaningful. And like you know, like you said, we just connected
Yeah.
over so many different things.
Yeah.
But I now get to see that, and I get to see him in that
Yes.
every day.
Yeah.
And it's just different from, a little jar that has
Yeah.
ashes in it. It's
Yeah.
just so much more meaningful. It's like a tribute to that person,
Yeah.
and with a lot of love given into it.
Yes,
And,
wholeheartedly.
yes, wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
So I'm so thankful for you offering that. I think it's beautiful, and I just don't know that enough people know about it. So I wanted to highlight it.
Just hearing that makes me feel like I'm doing a good job in my work.
Oh my God, you are.
Yeah.
You don't even realize.
Thank you.
You've really,
No,
really.
I do, but it's the connection of humanity and what ties us together and what's important in life.